Hey everybody, it's me, Remy, the comic book poser, and today I'm here to welcome you to Enter the Poserverse. It's Tuesday, which means we're going to talk about what comic books I think you should pick up on this new comic book day on Wednesday, February the 10th, 2021. And to find out what it is, check it out after this.
Hey, little girl, did you want to know a secret?
I got 5 on it. 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Before we go to the list, you can tell that I'm still recording this on Monday as I'm wearing the same clothes that I did in 2 videos that came out on Monday. So I don't know where we are currently in terms of subscriber count, but remember, at 750, we will give away at least one 9.2 of Hotel Number 1 from AWA Upshot Studios. And if we hit it by next Tuesday, the 16th, which I think we're only like 18 away, then 2 of these puppies are in play. So, thank you for your support so far. We're getting close. I'm grinding. Y'all are grinding. We're going to get there. I feel it. Now, let's talk about some books. And this is a big week for me. The last couple of weeks, it's been like 22, 21, 18 books with a couple of random things that I've picked up in terms of issues that I've missed. This week, I think the total count is 32, because I saw how much money I'm spending, and I was like, oh, not again. Oh, not again. I think we're at 32 books this week, which, hoo boy, it is a lot, but there are some really, really good books both coming out, or some much hyped books that are coming out this week, and then there are also some series that are picking back up that I'm excited about, and that's actually where we'll start. Starting us off today is Bliss number 5 from Image Comics. Everybody really was hyped about the first issue or 2 of Bliss. There were some people who were still excited with the last 2 books of the first arc. Me, I feel like it ended a little softly. But we get, 2 bits of knowledge from this sentence synopsis, right? We know this is the beginning of the second arc, and then apparently this is the final arc, so it's only going to be a 10 or 12 issue mini. But I'm excited to see how this picks back up and maybe reinvigorate some of my excitement for the series. The art has been really cool, except for like the creepy Lin-Manuel Miranda looking main character, but I just sing like Hamilton and like In the Heights songs. I have a theater degree. It happens. I'm sorry. Next up from AWA Upshot is another number 1. It's Casual Fling, and this woman decides to have a fling one night, and she learns that, a one-night stand may not be either one night or all that it's cracked up to be. So I'm excited to see what happens in, this creepy kind of casually erotic thriller. I feel like this is a different kind of story than we've been introduced to from anything AWA, and that's what I'm excited about. Next up from Image is Commanders in Crisis number 5, and I have not heard a lot of people talking about this book, but it's wild. The first 4-issue arc was about fighting the death of empathy. You find out that all of the members of the team are like ex-presidents from the point in time when their Earth in the multiverse collapsed. And there was a really wild turn in terms of someone not necessarily representing who she was in the first arc, and it really destroyed like the dynamic of the team and led to some questioning as to whether or not they can survive as a group or continue to fight back against anybody now that empathy no longer exists. So I'm excited to jump on, the second arc of this just wild, like, mid-arc story that, Steve Orlando and his team has assembled. Next up is Daredevil 27. It's part 2 of The Black Kitchen. Daredevil 26 was my pick of the week, which is very out of character for me, but that is how much, this Daredevil series is just crushing it right now, and B, how perfect it is as a tie-in issue where you're seeing the events of the King in Black happening, but not necessarily screwing up the rest of the continuity in what's been going on in the Daredevil storyline. So I'm really excited to see what happens here, and it's the most electrifying issue of the arc yet. Daredevil is my favorite ongoing, at Marvel, hands down. It's been that way since about issue 6. I love it, I love it, I love it. Next up from Vault Comics is The Devil's Red Bride number 5. Apparently this is the last book of the series, which is heartbreaking to me. I don't know why I keep getting surprised that a lot of indie books are ending in 5 or 6 issues, since that's kind of the norm for them. But this has just been one hell of a story in terms of looking at, you know, the concept of saving face, the concept of kind of trying to establish your name, right past wrongs. All of these different kind of themes are playing their way out, and you get samurai and vampires, which are 2 tropes that I did not think I would love when I first started reading comics, but these are the kinds of books that I am obsessed with. So if you're not going to pick up just issue 5, or you can't find the full run, find out when the trade drops, pre-order that trade from your LCS, and you're not going to be disappointed. Next up from AWA is Erratic number 3. This is a book that I was on the fence on after number 1. It's the teenager gets his superpowers, but he can only use them, you know, like for 15 minutes, and then he has to recharge, kind of like, you know, I think the analogy I keep using is the beta capsule from Ultraman, where he is dealing with coming existential threats. The girl who he kind of likes, that he keeps getting into weird, like high schooly, middle schooly situations with, who keeps trying to like drag him for ruining her reputation, is there when she sees his powers used in full force in the final third of the second issue. And just kind of seeing all of that play its way out, plus the action, is I think what got me hooked to pick up the last 3 issues of the series, unless this becomes like the third AWA book to get a confirmed second volume. Coming up next from the Land of the X-Men is Excalibur number 18. Again, this has been my favorite ongoing X-Men title, that it was interesting to look at the tale of 2 Betsy's in terms of her being able to come back, that we are also dealing with a little bit of the fallout of like the Queen Betsy and the Betsy that returned. So we're figuring out everything else that is happening here, plus we're going to get some additional like information in terms of how mutants in Otherworld are potentially being threatened. We saw the Coven Arkaba show up again in the last issue, which is something we hadn't seen since like issue 6 or 7. So I'm excited to see what new battle lines are being drawn. Next up is Fantastic Four number 29. That's a title that you don't really ever hear me mention because I've never been a big Fantastic Four reader. However, it's a King in Black tie-in, and I've been consuming all of those. I think the only one that I've missed out on is Black Cat number 1. So if you have a copy of that, let me know, or slide me some digital codes and I will check it out. But I want to see how it ties into the Fantastic Four universe. I also might start kind of getting into older issues of the Fantastic Four again, because I'm really intrigued by the life story that's coming out. It's Mark Russell, I think, is writing it. So maybe I want to get a taste of what like contemporary Fantastic Four looks like all over again, so I can maybe fall in love with that team or get into that team really for the first time as a reader ever. Next from IDW is G.I. Joe Castle Falls number 1. So I hadn't been reading Real American Hero, like the main ongoing G.I. Joe tale that's existed forever. I had been reading this kind of new Elseworlds where Cobra has taken control of the government. You've seen a lot of long cons for the Joes to kind of position themselves as the insurgents against Cobra. And in this new series, we are starting to see if the fruits of the Joes' labor have paid off. I also really feel like a lot of people have been sleeping on this G.I. Joe's book as well, but I know not all of you are living in your childhood of the late 80s and early 90s like I am. Next up, we're starting to get some more DC books back into the mix now that we are in the waning days of Future State. We got Green Lantern Season 2, number 11. I believe my assessment of number 10 was I still don't know what the fuck's going on, but I think what Grant Morrison is doing is really, really good on this arc, so I'm excited to kind of get back into the swing of all things Green Lantern. I think one of the things that I'll do during my downtime on Tuesday or Monday night is reread the first 10 books of Chapter 2 or Season 2 to kind of get back into the throw of things. Next up, time for that Bemis drop. I'm running out of Say Anything music videos, so I might just... Number 5 is coming out from Vault Comics. My man Max Bemis is writing it. I've really enjoyed this, but apparently the secret we find out halfway through Heavy number 4 is that you might not be really fighting for anything, that they're not going to escape from this land of the in-between, like this purgatory-esque world. So it's time to see if Bill, like, is going to Hulk out and just start destroying everything, since he's, you know, evidently never going to get to see his wife ever again. Next, another Image Comics book. I know a lot of people have been excited about Homesick Pilots number 3, as we've got this, you know, band of teenagers who are searching through the old James house, that very creepy house in the neighborhood. They are apparently stirring up all kinds of spirits, that there's about to be a bunch of shit that goes down in this book, and I'm real excited. Alright, next up, from Mad Cave Studios is Honor and Curse number 8. I'm gonna earmuffs myself, because I still haven't read this, but I finally ordered the floppies of Honor and Curse 1 through 6, and then I've got 7 in my box behind me, that I'm excited to kind of binge it all and be ready to talk Honor and Curse number 8 if it makes the top list. Next up, another Vault book, I Walk with Monsters number 3. I think this was fairly brilliant in its setup in book 1. In book 2, you got to find out a little bit more about the history of the two main characters in terms of them having some damaged goods, or being damaged goods, and we get to kind of work forward in figuring out how that creates their modus operandi for them to act and focus on their targets. Now we get into the officially named King in Black tie-ins, of which there are only 2 this week, unless it bleeds into an ongoing. First is King in Black Panther number 1. I sadly dropped Coates' run probably halfway through that. It just, I wasn't finding time to read it. I wasn't getting into the Agents of Wakanda book either, so we'll see if, you know, what happens in this kind of Elseworlds tie-in excites me enough to get back in on some Black Panther action. Of all of the tie-ins that I didn't like, Thunderbolts number 1 really... it was bad. Like, felt like I was reading an Empire tie-in level of not good. So we'll see. I know that's $3 I'm probably not going to like. And then if it blows my mind, then I'll come correct and eat some crow on the weekly rankings video. Next, we've got another Mad Cave book this week. Some of their OG titles are still coming out. We've got Knights of the Golden Sun number 10, the reveal of who showed up and who she was looking for at the end of book number 9 was amazing. I normally don't get into biblical or religious, you know, stories that, you know, I'm that Easter and Christmas only kind of Episcopalian or Catholic stuff if it's with my wife's family. But I just like this play in that dark period in the Bible where, you know, God leaves and it's a test of the faith for the angels and archangels, as well as dealing with their threats from below. So seeing how this is all coming to head in the second arc is really, really, really exciting to me. Next up from Aftershock is Knock 'em Dead number 3. This is the book that I've talked about how I, you know, fucked up and didn't put it on my poll for the first or second week and had to play catch up on it or get it back ordered for me. But I really, really like this. It ends in our comedian who is bonded with the gentleman who he died with in the car accident. Book 2 ends with him just absolutely crushing it in a stand-up club, and a lot of the people who are there, namely his sister, know that that's not his kind of humor, know that that's not his kind of material. So we'll see if there becomes some fallout by somebody going like, how'd you get this kind of funny, or are you stealing somebody's jokes? We'll see if folks start really digging to get in to what is going on with Bryce's life, the main character. Next up, it's time for back-to-back weeks of Mighty Morphin and Power Rangers. In Mighty Morphin, it's time to figure out the identity of the Green Ranger. Is this the one with the Omega Rangers where they were dealing with the stuff on the ship? I get the two confused now that it's two separate books. I like them both, but that's all I know. If you want a better analysis of Mighty Morphin, go check out Burke Family 54, because he's the Power Rangers guru, and I'm just trying to nip at his coattails. Next up for Marvel is Morbius Bond of Blood #1. I loved the previous run of Morbius the Living Vampire, that it did a good job getting me kind of intrigued into the character. Typically, the battle lines are drawn between Morbius and Spider-Man as being kind of blood foes, but the previous run, Spider-Man was helping Morbius attempt to find the cure, not for his blood disorder, but for him having to be a vampire. And here, right, we're dealing with a new arc, a new title, right? I don't know why it's not just an extension of the old one, because Marvel likes to do that. Like, I have been reading 18 issues of Symbiote Spider-Man, Alien Reality, Symbiote Spider-Man, Alien Reality, like King in Black. Like, they're the same fucking thing. Number them together for people like me who are dumb. Up next is the book that I might be the most excited to read, is Origins #4 from Boom Studios. #3 was really, really cool because we started to see the fissure between the main character and his robot counterpart, as he's kind of spiteful in, like, her lying to him and maybe hiding her humanity, her lack of humanity, his humanity. But they end up in a robot village where he gives them a sense of purpose all over again, becomes a god to them because he is the last human that is existing. And we've only got 3 books left as they continue on their quest to see if they can potentially save the planet. So I think this might be the first book I read this week. Next, and probably the most hyped book this week, is Radiant Black #1. You've got an Image superhero book that is coming up. I've read little bits of the description. I have seen a lot of people kind of screaming from the rooftops about how good this book is, how you don't want to miss out, that this could be the next thing that changes Image Comics, blah, 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 right? If you liked Invincible, reading it now, and Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, reading it now, but I'm dumb. Kyle Higgins is writing it. I like Ultraman. So I'm excited to kind of see this. I don't know if I'm going to be the screaming from the rooftops kind of person yet. I'll be skeptical in claiming that it changes the game. Next up from Aftershock is Red Atlantis #4. Y'all know that this is probably one of my favorite books at the moment because A, it's an Aftershock book, that B, is being written by Stephanie Phillips, and C, is playing in Russian conspiracy theories. Some of my favorite things that are all getting thrust together, all for one. So as our main character starts to learn of her ties to all of this, like Russian hypnotic games playing stuff, we'll see if she's evil. Next up for Marvel is Sword #3. I've kind of liked this, that I've mentioned how Sword was a team that was not fully familiar to me in its past iterations, but I've started doing some reading on Marvel Unlimited, or doing some reading, just Googling shit, and I find that this is a book that is super relevant now, because while I'm not going to spoil WandaVision by everything that has gone on, they make it blatantly obvious, at least in the first 3 issues or episodes, that Sword is at play. That you see the emblem on the desk of the first one, you see the helicopter with the Sword logo, and then in the third one, you see the gal wearing the Sword logo on her necklace. So I gotta learn about Sword, because I kind of like WandaVision, and I kind of like this book. Next up from IDW is Scarenthood #4. You heard me talk about that book last week, but I filmed a day too early, and it got pushed to this week. Another one of the books that I am super excited to check out is Scout's Honor #1, that I think David Pepos absolutely crushed it with the first episode, especially with the reveal that may change the nature of the Ranger Scouts of America forever. I want to see what our main character does with that knowledge, and if there's a ripple effect. Next up is a book that I grabbed off the new issue table and went, yeah, hell yeah, I'm reading this. It's Space Bastards #2. It's from Humanoids. and the name that drags you to this is Derek Robertson. If you love his art, you are going to love this book. But Space Bastards #1 is essentially about a bunch of people who are at the end of their rope financially, and they need something either lucrative to get them money for their freedom, or they need something risky so they can just die to get their freedom. And they're all like postal workers, but it's like postal work meets capture the flag, because every time a parcel that is delivered through this service changes hands, the delivery fee goes up and up and up to the purchaser. So like, you have people who are just tackling the shit out of each other, killing each other, doing everything to be the last person to have their hands on the package so they can submit it and make some bank. I think it's a fun premise. There were a couple of cool little twists in the first issue that kind of endear you to the main character. So I want to see what happens in #2, because this book is real wild, but my fear is that it could just be kind of one note of the same stuff playing its way out. But I know Robertson wouldn't do art for something that is super repetitive, because look at the books that he's had long runs on that have some differentiation. Next up, Sweet Tooth, The Return #4. Still haven't read Sweet Tooth, still pulling the books. Next, Taskmaster #3. I have enjoyed the first 2 books of this immensely, as Taskmaster is kind of working with Nick Fury to figure out who has framed him in the death of Agent Maria Hill. We are starting to see him do his thing and kind of start working to like mimic the people that he needs to mimic to be able to access a secret like computer system or file. Next up from Image is Undiscovered Country #12. This also is one of my favorite ongoing titles. This is the end of the Unity arc. I have really loved what has been going on in this storyline in terms of looking at different like conflicts between the different states or provinces, right? The different places that are separated out. Looking at like the technological connection to Unity, where like if you're a non-citizen of Unity and you have that little thing on your finger, you can just be like bloop, and will things into existence. But we were starting to see the front end of conflict between Uncle Sam and Destiny Man across issues 10 and 11. So 12, we know there's going to be some kind of payoff before the heroes hopefully make it out of Unity into the next like province. 2 books left. Next from Oni Press is The Vein #5. If you like vampires, if you like conspiracy theories, if you like crime noir, and you like something that's set in like the 50s, again, this is a really good book. It's been very, very intriguing to read throughout. And I'm a big fan that it's, you know, the reason why I picked up that book was because I loved, what was that Colin Bunn book called? Colin Bunn Space Scary Story. I don't remember. You know what I'm talking about, though. It was on Oni, made me want to check out another one. This has given me confidence to kind of dive in and pull more books from Oni. And then the last book of the week is X-Force #17, where you are getting more play across one of the most storied teams in the history of the X-Men. I've liked this arc as well, that it's been crazy and wild, but in a good way. The last thing that I want to call out is some of the Scout books that are coming out this week, right? Every other week I mention that, you know, Scout books don't show up on my pull list because I am getting Scout in the Scout box. Alright, coming out this week from Scout Comics. #1 is Stabity Bunny the Dark Origins edition. This looks like it might be some kind of trade. I just started getting into Stabity Bunny. It's kind of a wild read. Next up is Children of the Grave #2. Pay attention to my blog tomorrow because I think I have a preview of that coming. Next up is The Mapmaker #1. I think, is that a Scoot book? Yeah, I think so. Another one of their children's imprints, but it's essentially like you can make a map to get power. And then last, White Ash presents #1 Galarian. I may have done something, you know, bad And when I got an email today that said that they are printing 100 metal covers of Garian #1 or Glarian #1, that I might have bought at least one because it looked really cool, even though I'm not into sexy covers. I am into sexy white ash covers. So maybe I'll put the link in the description, but you should check out that cover on Scout Comics' website. It is beautimous. What do you think? Are there any books that you're pulling this week or picking up this week that I'm not? As always, let me know in the live chat. This side? Yeah, let me know in the live chat. Let me know in the comments down below. Feel free to share this video with whomever the heck you want to, as we are crawling closer and closer and closer to that 750 and beyond. And don't think my sights are solely focused on 750, because with as quickly as we've gone from 6 to 750, I've got my eyes on what I want to put together for a 1,000 sub giveaway, because I got that taste in my mouth and I'm getting there. I want it. I want it now. So we'll see. But as always, thanks for stopping by and have a good one.
Hey, little girl, did you want to know a secret?
I got 5 on it. 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.